This was one of the scary mornings I had with my mom. She woke up with a terrible headache and was completely confused. She wanted to call me, but couldn't figure out how. My mom has Parkinson's, and she sometimes had some confusion, but this was different. Normally, she'd use Siri to make calls, but this time Siri wasn't listening to her. At least that's what she thought. She tried again and again, but she couldn't get it to work. She didn't think to try using her fingers to dial me or to text me manually. She just kept struggling with Siri for nearly an hour. She lives in assisted living, and they have necklaces that they can wear, and there's a button on the necklace that you can press at any time and someone will come help you. But that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted me. She told me later that she didn't even remember that she had that necklace on, or that it even existed. So she wanted to talk to me. She kept trying and trying, growing more and more panicked and frustrated. She told me after about an hour and a half of trying, decided to text me. So I get a text from her, and all it said was help. So, of course, I called her immediately. I could hear the fear in her voice. I could tell that something was terribly wrong. The first thing she said was, "It's terrible." And I asked, What's terrible? What's wrong? And she didn't say anything. She just couldn't explain. So instead, I decided to ask her yes or no questions. So, are you in pain? And she said, yes. I said, where? She said, her head. I said, okay, do you want to go to the hospital? No, it's nothing like that. Okay, is anything else hurting? No. Do you feel confused? Yes, I'm very confused. So, this is when I told her to lay down, try to stay calm, and I would be on my way. I said, it's going to take me about 20 minutes to get there, so just lay there and relax. I will come. And she said, okay. So, meanwhile, I had called the facility and asked one of her favorite people to go up and check on her and try to calm her down. And they said that they would. So I rushed over and basically find Mom in a state of, I don't want to say panic, but she had a look on her face. She was very disturbed. She was laying in bed. She just looked exhausted. I can't even explain how disheveled she looked. But then when she realized, that it was me, she was very relieved. She sat up. She was very, very happy to see me. It didn't take long for me to figure out what had happened. She had gotten so upset about Siri not working that she worked herself into a full-blown panic. But what really alarmed me was that she wasn't speaking normally. Her words were very slow. She was mumbling. She was having a hard time completing sentences. It wasn't like she was confused about what she wanted to say. She just couldn't get the words out. This is new. This has happened before when she would have hallucinations or have other sort of mental issues at the moment, but this was different. I didn't want to stress her out more, so instead of continuing to talk to her, I gave her some juice and some Tylenol. I hoped that she would just relax and fall asleep. And that's when she usually has headaches, Tylenol really works for her. So I was just hoping she would just feel well enough to relax and fall asleep. So thankfully she did drift off after a little while and slept for a couple hours. I sat there watching her and researching on my phone what could possibly be causing this. So she woke up. Her headache was still there, but she said it wasn't as bad. The confusion was a little bit better too, but she was still struggling to find words. She could easily answer yes or no questions, so that's how we communicated. Forming full sentences was very, very difficult for her. She told me she was hungry, so I gave her a banana, and she gobbled that down. And then she laid back down and fell right back to sleep. And she slept for another couple hours. So during all this time, I was doing research, and I came across an article about transient aphasia, which is a temporary condition where a person suddenly has trouble speaking or understanding language. It can happen during the aura phase of a migraine. And that got me thinking. So for years, my mom has experienced what doctors call a migraine aura. It's the strange sensation of light around, so she would call them flashes, but they were basically a glowing light around her peripheral vision. And I guess it's a sensation that usually comes right before someone gets a migraine. But here's the thing, she never actually got the headache part of that migraine. This has been happening to her for years. We always thought it was induced by caffeine, so she stopped drinking caffeine. But every once in a while she would still get them, but she never had any pain. She would have this aura for a couple hours and then it would pass. But this time it seemed like she has the aura and the headache, and a really bad headache. This aphasia thing lined up perfectly with what she was experiencing. Okay, now keep in mind, I am not a doctor. I'm just a regular person. Her doctor pretty much sucked, so I never called him and asked him any questions because I never got any answers. So I used my research skills a lot to find out what's going on with Mom. I'm just used to trying to figure out what's going on and how to help her. Every time I would ask the doctor about any of the symptoms, I always got the same answer. Oh, that's a normal symptom of Parkinson's. I'm sorry, there's not much we can do about it. There's no way to predict what's going to happen next. Let's adjust her dosage of her medicine. That's all he would ever say. So instead of bothering to even call him, I had to Google and YouTube and Medical Digest to find information, which turns out to be way more helpful and much less stressful. Okay, so some of the signs of transient aphasia are having trouble putting words together to speak a sentence, having trouble understanding what others are saying, having trouble comprehending or repeating what they have read, trouble forming words or recalling names, and they see letters or numbers all jumbled up. This fit perfect. Yes, she could understand what I was saying, but she was having a really hard time communicating back to me. Okay, so then she woke up again. She was still having some trouble with the words, but it was weird. She was totally normal in every other way. She could walk around the room. She went to the restroom. She was eating. She went in and took her medications. She even was reminding me about an upcoming doctor's appointment the following week. So her mind was working. There was just something a little askew. She couldn't get the words out that I know she was thinking. It was very interesting. She was no longer mumbling, so that was good. But it was like her brain was working, but just not 100%. The words just were not forming the way they should. So after a couple hours, they brought up her dinner. She ate a bunch of it. She was very hungry. I had given her some more Tylenol, and she just felt much better, I could tell. I helped her take a shower. Her language started to improve. Was it perfect? No, but she was able to complete a sentence or two. I really wanted to go home, but I was not going to leave until I knew she was okay. Like I said, she lived in assisted living. She wasn't alone. But I didn't really want to leave until I felt comfortable that she was stable enough for me to leave. I decided to test Siri again because I wanted to make sure she could reach me if she needed me. If you don't know what it is, Siri is the voice companion on an iPhone that allows you to interact with the phone without touching anything. My mom has Parkinson's, and sometimes her tremors are so severe that she can't really use her fingers on the phone. So we decided to test out Siri and see if she could get it to work. She picked up her phone, looked at it for a while, and said, "Hey." That was it. She just stopped. She was waiting for Siri to respond. I showed her the script I had written out for her to use with Siri. One that she had followed before with no issues many, many, many times. She has been using Siri for months. it said the proper way to greet Siri and have, it make the phone call. So she read the script again and then said, "Hey, get Kim." I said, "Well, Mom, you need to read what it says." "I am reading what it says." And of course, Siri didn't respond. We tried a few more times, but she kept struggling. I told her not to worry about it and showed her how to press my contact directly to call me instead. So just in the contacts on the phone, I just searched, had mine up there. So if she picked up her phone, I was the one right there on the page. All she had to do was press the little phone icon and it would call me. So we practiced that for about 10 or 15 minutes and it worked just fine. So I'm like, okay, that's how she's going to reach me if she needs me tonight, because I think she can competently do that if she needs me. She also had her necklace on, and I drilled into her that if something goes wrong and you need help, push the button. So anyways, that's the plan for tonight. I was getting ready to leave, but then she decided she wanted to watch TV. I said, okay, that's simple enough, right? Let's watch TV. She picked up the remote and was just staring at it. She started pressing random buttons, and then she was turning the on button, off button, on button, off button. I'm like, "Mom, what are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, I'm trying to get to the guide." I'm like, "Well, that's not how you get to the guide. Those are the power buttons. This one turns it on, this one turns it off." "Well, which one is the guide?" I'm like, "This one here." I'm like, "What do you want to watch?" She goes, "I don't know." So she has a cheat sheet with her favorite channels written down. I handed it to her and said, well, "Which one of these channels you want? Which one do you want?" And she looked at it, read it for a minute, and said 232. Perfect. So I put the TV on 232, but that wasn't the right channel. "Are you sure that's what you wanted?" I asked her, and she said, "No, that's not the right channel." So she looked at the cheat sheet again, studied it for a minute, and said, No, it's 223. I'm like, okay. So I put in 223, still wrong. So now I said, "Mom, what do you want to watch?" She said, "The game show channel," and she pointed to it right on the list. The game show channel is 322. So she had the numbers all jumbled up. So I turned it on for her, and she was happy. It was like her brain was just mixing up the numbers, like it had mixing up the words previously. I didn't want her to be upset. I didn't say another word about it. She was happy now, watching her show. As I kept researching, I found some more information. Another explanation. Aphasia is usually caused by damage to the left side of the brain. My mom's Parkinson's symptoms were mostly on the right side of her body, and her doctor had once told me that meant the left side of her brain was likely more affected by the disease. This all started making sense. If the aphasia is caused by damage to the left side of the brain, and her Parkinson's is damaging the left side of the brain, voila, right? So the NHS website described transient aphasia as a temporary issue that usually goes away once the migraine passes. And that's exactly what happened. Mom went to bed that night and basically slept off the rest of her migraine. She woke up the next morning perfectly fine. She called me at like 6 a.m. and she was so excited to tell me that she feels great now and she's not confused anymore. And she was able to use Siri. She was able to use the remote control. There was no speaking issues, no confusion, no problems at all. What a relief. She did remember all the confusion from the day prior and asked what I thought the problem was. I told her what I had been reading and that I think that it's all because of the Parkinsons and that the headache was actually a migraine and it was causing the confusion. And I asked her if the aura that she saw with the headache yesterday was the same aura that she usually gets that she called flashes. And she goes, "Yes, that was like the flash, but this time my head was hurting so bad." And then so we kind of talked about the difference between what she had before with just the aura, and now she had also had the migraine, so that's why she was having a terrible headache. And the headache, I think, was causing the confusion. She accepted that explanation, and we were done with the conversation. She was ready to go on with her day. She was very happy. Her friends were coming to take her to lunch, and she was super excited. I was relieved. You know, during my mom's entire Parkinson's experience, especially the last few years, my whole focus was to keep her happy and comfortable and as well taken care of as possible, while still allowing her some independence and power over some things in her life. I never hid things from her, but I purposely did not include too many details about anything. My mom is gone now, and I miss her terribly. I hope that my efforts led to a happier and easier life for her. Parkinson's is a cruel disease, and I was very sad that all the joy in her life was being slowly stripped away. Now, my final thoughts. This whole experience was such a roller coaster. One moment she was panicking and unable to form sentences. Then the next, basically 24 hours later, she was totally back to normal. It was terrifying at first, but now I feel like I understand it a lot better. I wasn't sure how to share this information and whether I was going to share my mom's actual experience. But then I realized that she would be happy to know that maybe her terrifying day, retold in this way, could help someone else. So that's what happened. If you've ever seen something like this happen with a loved one, or has it happened to you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever dealt with transient aphasia or a migraine aura? Or a migraine at all? I'd love to hear your experiences. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe if you haven't already so that you get all future Parkinson's information that I share. Thanks again. Stay healthy.